everyone, it's Catherine. Today we're in my plant room. I really wanted to make moss pools and I've seen them around on like Instagram, Facebook, and so I recently got a few plants, like a Monstera that would do really well on a moss pool. And also, as you can see, my pothos behind me are like really trailing. They go really far down onto the ground and stuff. I'll show like a little clip of that right now. I really want to try growing it on a moss pool and see like how much bigger the leaves get and if they actually do help in any way. So yeah, I hope you guys come along for the journey and maybe you'll decide to make yourself one too. So the supplies you're gonna need, I found most of mine at Dollarama actually. So that was kind of nice to save some cost. But you can't use their moss because it's just fake moss. So you can use sphagnum moss that you can get off of Amazon or at a garden center. Or you can use like sheet moss, which is what I have. And mine's just from Bluegrass Nurseries, but it's a product of Saskatchewan along with the moss. So that was $30 for me, but I'm pretty sure that can make quite a few moss pools. So I don't think that's like a big issue because when I was at the garden center, I looked at the moss pools there and they were, for like some small ones about this big, they were $30 and I was like, well, I can get this for $30 and make a bunch hopefully because I have lots of plants. To help the moss, we're gonna need some water to make it soft, I guess, and malleable. We're gonna need like a biggish container to mix the moss and the water in together. Then you'll need some mesh, and I honestly was gonna try like, there's like this green kind of plasticky mesh that you can get there, but it's not very thick or strong, so it's not sturdy by itself. But this one is. It's basically what everyone else has been using from like Home Depot or anything like that that I've seen. And it's just black. It was only $2.50 and I got 3.5 feet by 20 inches, so that's pretty good, I'd say. Then I also got twist ties for when I put the moss in the plastic mesh to close it so it makes a cylinder. So they have small and big ones in this. The next supply you're gonna need is twine. You can either buy like this jute twine. It's just like kind of small and it's $1.25. What I did was I bought this because I first found this and it also dispenses twine. Then I got these support ties for the plants that I'm going to put on the poles because until their roots grow into the poles, I just think they need to be held securely. Maybe not, because maybe when you're wrapping them it'll be okay. A few household items that you probably have around: a ruler, a pair of scissors. Okay, so now I'm gonna change my angle and we're gonna build these moss pools. I will be starting off by opening up my bag of moss, and then I'm just gonna be taking some small handfuls and putting some into my container. Now I'm just adding the water that will make the moss soft, make it malleable so we can put it into the moss pools. Taking your plastic mesh, you're just going to want to open the package and then just twist it and see how big of a moss pool you want. Mine was about 9 inches when I measured the width of it. Now I'm just going to be taking the moss and filling up the mesh to make the moss pool. And at the bottom, I'm leaving a couple inches so then that part that goes into the pot doesn't start to rot from the moss. And now I'm just going to take my small zip ties and start zip tying the moss pool together. And you do this by overlapping the mesh a little bit. Cut all the ends of your zip ties off. Okay, so since we built this moss pole together, I wanted to use it for my Monstera, the Delicioso one. As you can see, she has like some roots poking out here, but also like they're popping out of the pot as well down here and stuff. And I got it probably about 2 weeks ago, I'm guessing. She's really pretty and nice. This leaf has one fenestration, so I'm super excited for that to actually open up and do something. And she's really healthy. Okay, so now I have my pot and like a little table here. This is my Monstera. I also have a bin with some soil. So I'm just going to be adding some soil to the bottom of my pot. This is a 10-inch pot. I forgot to mention that. This is a 6 that I'm going up from. So root bound, actually, that's like sad, but good. That it's gonna get planted because, yeah, you can see all those roots. I guess he's super root bound, so 1 second, I have to figure this out. Well, I'm just gonna try and untangle kind of the roots down here a little bit without disturbing them, hopefully too much, but at the same time, it just needs to come out of its pot. It's definitely outgrowing. I'm just gonna squeeze my pot and rotate my plant in pot. And I'm gonna like place my hands almost like this and just squeeze and try to squeeze all these roots off. Wow guys, that's so beautiful! Look at this root system. That is so exciting. I'm actually so happy, and it's so healthy. Like, look at all that. I didn't even lose that much actually. Now I'm going to be bringing in my moss pole, I guess. It goes like this, because this is the end that has nothing really in it up to here. I also need to fill this a little bit fuller. Got my plant to the right height, like that I want it in the pot. I'm going to be placing the moss pole on one of the sides, so I'm thinking about doing it kind of over here. I'm gonna have my zip ties facing backwards, and then you'll just want to make sure that your moss is all nice and tight up there, and then none's kind of down below like where the soil level is going to be, because that wouldn't be very good. Your moss will rot. Now just taking a smaller pot and just going to be filling in all the blank space. To be lightly watering it just because the soil that I put in is kind of not very wet. So I think I might be making 2 different kinds of moss poles. I'm gonna try and put this like wooden dowel in the middle of one and see like if it's more stable. But you could always go and find a stick outdoors, that would work fine too. You're just gonna want to take your wooden dowel and your burlap and open it up and cut a big enough section to cover your pole. Unfortunately, mine was folded a bit more than I thought, and I ended up with 2 separate pieces. I still made it work, but it's definitely easier with just one larger piece. Now take your burlap piece and fold it in half if it's not already, and then you're just going to start rolling it around the wooden dowel and just try to fold in the top so it has a nice edge. Taking the twine, we will be starting at the top and tying a knot just around the burlap moss pole, and then start to wrap down the twine downwards, kind of overlapping maybe a little bit, but also moving. And as I said before, it'll be easier if you just have one larger piece. As you can see, I had to do it twice, but just repeat the steps. And then at the bottom, you're going to want to tie it together again to make sure your moss pole is secure and will not fall apart. Now that the burlap moss pole is done, I'm going to be adding it to my neon pothos pot here. And I almost tipped the pot over by accident, and then later that night it did actually fall over, and I was sad. But you're just going to make a hole kind of in your pot before you insert, and then put the moss pole in and find whichever vine you want to wrap around your moss pole. And I just chose one of the strands that was pretty long and just wrapped in a diagonal. And at the top, I did use my plant tape to secure it so it didn't fall off. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and if you guys like this type of video, please let me know down below since it is different than my regular videos. I really do love plants. Anyways, have a great day everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye!